considering my ignorance and inability to speak in past reviews, this is one that's not necessarily for the trademark sunglasses, but rather a pair of reading glasses. So, you know, whenever I bastardize the language, at least I can read it properly, and, you know, then everything truly is on me and my own ignorance, I suppose. So, Shining with 10, VARG UTAN Flock. This numbered series has been an intriguing one, and this is one of the most enigmatic, or at least their frontman is the most enigmatic folks that are within the black metal industry over the past 10 to 15 years, and their material has run a serious gamut from suicidal black metal that has picked up along the way some progressive styles and some avant-garde, so they have really kind of reached out and kind of gone a little bit further, expanded their horizons, and that's actually a big question about this disc right here. Is it going to be similar to what we just heard with Watain, where they kind of go back and turn back the clock a little bit in 2018, or are they instead going to further themselves a little bit more with this disc? And there are countless releases that are that really surround this 10-album series, so that's clearly not the end of their discography by any stretch of the imagination. So this is, at least in its main format, just 6 tracks. There's also a pair of covers that come along with deluxe editions, one by Placebo originally, entitled In the Cold Light of Morning, and Cry Little Sister, originally done by Gerard McMahon. So this is kind of interesting by itself, considering Placebo has a little bit of a dark little goth sound to them, but it really hovers more toward the alternative direction. How's that going to sound? And then Cry Little Sister, it's one that Shining could easily pull off and do. But the main album itself is one that does kind of juxtapose itself between having that aggression, that really trademark sort of almost thrashy style of black metal that just furies its way through. And then there is the softer, the more, you know, the suicidal or the depressive black metal styles that are there, or just something that showcases a little bit more progression or a little bit more avant-garde, that shows a little bit more creativity. And we get that with the very first cut. The very first cut is a little bit more akin to the traditional style for Shining, so it sounds like it's going to maybe maintain a bit of a classicist approach instead of maybe sticking with what they've done with some previous releases. Really, it's right within the wheelhouse, though, so it's not one that should concern or alarm anybody. In fact, if anything, it should be sort of celebrated and praised. It's a really good opening track. I really dug it. There's a bit of ambience in the back, in the middle of this song, which is also very much in the wheelhouse. It's very much something that's very commonplace in this style, so if it's unfamiliar to you, then this means that this whole style may be unfamiliar to you. But then we get to track 2, which is Jelen Portanas Bro, which is been stated to loosely translate to Golden Gate Bridge, which sounds like it'd be a really interesting name. A very curious title for a black metal song, and this is one of my early frontrunners of one of my favorite songs of 2018 so far. I really love this song. The overall experience and the atmosphere that this captures is absolutely wonderful. It is somehow able to just create in a really short form, only 6.5 minutes, a track that encompasses 3 different parts and has been in the works since 1999. So this has almost 20 years of experience behind it. It's been brewing for quite some time, and that may be why it's so good. It's had the opportunity to sit and fester, and instead of being rushed out, it was allowed to hover and really be perfected. And I feel like this song does exactly that. From its very haunting, very melancholy, very depressing introduction to a more steady riff that reminds me a little bit of A La Forgotten Tomb during the Negative Megalomania period, to the clean vocals, which are still very gruff and have a lot of passion behind it, and to the very rough and rugged black metal section, that trademark changeover that you get from a lot of artists that just don't want to stay too geared toward that very clean melody around the 4-minute mark, but then transitioning right back to that main idea for the finale. This is just a great song. It's one where it's rare that you say that a black metal song gets stuck in your head, but this has an opening development, and it's the way in which it sort of gains its foundation and moves itself toward its original lyricism. You can almost call it its main idea is very intoxicating. It stays within you, and you can hear it in your head long after you've listened to the track. It's one that's going to stay with you throughout the course of the rest of the album. And really through tracks 3 and 4, you're getting a little bit more of a traditional approach that has that, very thunderous black metal, but does leave open space for clean moments. And so you're getting this idea that this is going to be sort of a tale of two albums and a tale of two real ideas. There's a very big dichotomy here that actually, whenever it's unified, comes together very well, because everything feels like it is in its proper location. Everything feels like it's in its right place, and that's a very key aspect to making something like this work. It's why a lot of black gaze bands were able to gain some attention, but also gain some scrutiny, because it seemed like there was some heavy over-reliance on sort of jumping up and down very unnaturally, as opposed to letting the complex passages really guide them to one side or the other. And Shining, of course, being long-term veterans, have been able to use a lot of their own songcraft and their own ability to write very well, sort of build the overall narrative of their tracks and they've used that really advantageously in order to create powerful music on this album that feels that it has a lot of retainable aspect. We get to track 6, and it's entitled Mont Akia Gahana, which is, and actually I just destroyed that. My apologies actually go to the Japanese people for that. I'm going to try that again. Aoki Gahara. And this is the Suicide Forest, which has now become very famous because of somebody else, which I'm not going to speak those two names. However, this is a track that in 9 minutes and 33 seconds represents the longest cut on the disc, and also represents one where we hear some very haunting and brooding lyricism. We hear about a birthday and then a death day. Speaking of the day of death, which, if you don't really know the history of what this song is talking about, the Suicide Forest in Japan, then you may also feel a little bit like maybe this is some sort of prophecy, which is absolutely incorrect. It's instead talking about what somebody in that location may experience or feel or predict, what they may go through. It goes right there within the suicidal theme of some of this music, and actually crafts a great atmosphere. It's very well bookended together. I liked what they did here, and really I liked what Shining did throughout this 10th album of their numbered series. I like the fact that they really took their time and allowed a lot of their compositions to build. They were not overly and heavily reliant on furious and uncompromising black metal just to try to stay cult or, remain within a certain level or retain. They do what they want, and they expand and do as it is that they desire, and I like that because it does create an album that feels like it has a lot of variety on it while also still maintaining itself. I still think that there's a little bit of balance that needs to be either worked on a bit, but there's not a lot of complaint here. It's just strength of material by comparison to some of their previous albums. Either that or just, it comes down a little bit to your own personal choice or your own personal like or dislike of this style of heavy metal. But I consider this right now the winner out of the two that we have done, that we've reviewed in 2018. This is a 22 out of 30. It's an album I definitely would encourage you to scope out, especially if you're a fan of black metal. This is a disc that is very well balanced by its compositional strength, while it also may feel like you may get attached to one side or the other and really clamor for a little bit more of that. That's going to be really resolved with future listens and kind of recognizing the style and sort of exploring the style a little bit more if you happen to be a new traveler to this end of the metal spectrum. But I'm going to know what you guys think about this disc. Let me know in the comments below. Of course, you can pick it up over at Amazon via the Amazon page listed below in the description box. You can also get whatever you want. Just click the little magnifying glass in the upper right-hand corner of the screen. Do not feel restricted to just what I recommend. Thanks again for everybody who has done that so far, and I'll talk to all you guys later.